Bonnie and Clyde loved a getaway car so much, they wrote its manufacturer a thank you letter, then died in it in a hail of 112 bullets.
Al Capone built the first civilian armored car in history, and 20 years later, a president rode around in it.
And today, we're ranking history's most notorious criminals by their taste in cars. Let's start with the two who turned a getaway car into a fan letter.
Bonnie and Clyde didn't collect cars. They collected other people's cars.
Clyde Barrow was such a Ford V8 fanboy that he allegedly wrote Henry Ford a letter, thanking him for building a car with sustained speed and freedom from trouble that has got every other car skinned, and signing off, even if my business hasn't been strictly legal. He stole a 1934 Ford Deluxe four-door from a Topeka family's driveway, put nearly 7,000 miles on it in a few weeks, and was gunned down inside it by police in Louisiana on May 23, 1934. The car took 112 bullets. It still exists today, on display at a casino in Primm, Nevada, bullet holes and all, next to the actual shirt Clyde was wearing when he died.
Couldn't even return the car. F tier for the outcome, but S tier for the marketing.
And speaking of Ford superfans, John Dillinger had the same taste, with an even better origin story. He broke out of an escape-proof jail in Crown Point, Indiana, using a gun he'd carved out of wood and darkened with shoe polish. Then, for his getaway car, he didn't steal just any Ford. He stole the sheriff's own 1933 Ford V8 right out of the jail's garage. A wrecked, bullet-scarred Essex Terraplane he later drove is now a museum piece too. Dillinger's Ford letter to Henry Ford is probably a forgery, but the getaway itself is very real. Robbing the sheriff of her own car on the way out the door is elite trolling. A tier. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because not every gangster wanted people to notice the car. Frank Lucas ran Harlem's heroin trade in the 70s and owned a Rolls-Royce, a Mercedes, and a Corvette Stingray. He also had a 427 muscle car he once redlined to 160 miles an hour on the Jersey Turnpike. He scared himself so badly, he gave it to his sister-in-law just to get it out of his sight. But his actual daily driver, the one he used to sit on the corner of 116th and 8th and watch his own operation, was a beat-up old Chevrolet he lovingly called Nellie Bell, the city's biggest heroin kingpin, sitting in a wreck named after a sidekick's horse from a 50s Western, quietly clocking everything. What eventually got him caught wasn't the car at all. It was a $50,000 chinchilla coat he wore to a boxing match. Some men just cannot help themselves. B tier. Whitey Bulger ran Boston's Winter Hill Gang for decades, and one of his getaway vehicles wasn't just a car, it was basically a movie prop. According to trial testimony, Bulger fled the scene of a 1982 double murder in a 1975 Chevrolet Malibu rigged to spray an oil slick or smoke screen behind it to shake off anyone chasing it. A real-life Bond gadget, built by an Irish mob boss from Somerville, Massachusetts to dodge Boston PD. A tier, purely for the gadget budget.
Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Kray Twins ran London's East End out of a Jaguar Mark X, later upgrading to the 420G, which at the time was one of the widest cars sold in Britain, built with the American market in mind. It had the classic straight six under the hood, room for the whole firm in the back seat, and just enough polish to look like it belonged to a government minister instead of two brothers who terrorized a city. Respectable enough for church, big enough to make a body disappear in the trunk.
C tier. Now let's go to Colombia.
Because Pablo Escobar's collection makes every streamer's garage look like a car dealership's overflow lot. Porsche 911 RSR, Mercedes S600 Pullman, a DeLorean, a fleet of Toyota Land Cruisers nicknamed Narco Yodas because cartel members drove them everywhere. He was worth an estimated $9 billion at his peak, the 9th richest man on the planet. And his most prized possession, the one he kept a special place in his heart for, was a tiny 24 horsepower Renault 4 he used to race badly in Colombia's amateur Copa Renault in 1979. A billionaire's favorite car in the world's most stacked garage was basically a lawnmower with doors. He was also so obsessed with Al Capone that he bought a beat-up 1930s Cadillac and shot it full of holes himself just to feel closer to the guy. S tier for main character energy. El Chapo's garage puts even that to shame. When the Sinaloa cartel boss was finally raided, authorities seized 43 vehicles, including armored Mercedes AMGs, a Nissan GTR, a Corvette ZR1 painted white with racing stripes, a McLaren Mercedes SLR, and armored Jeeps, Rams, and Fords by the handful. He even had his crew clone an entire fake Mexican Federal Police Dodge Charger, decals included, and armor it so he could drive around looking like the exact people hunting him. But when he actually needed to escape for real, crawling a mile through a drainage tunnel during a raid, the car waiting for him wasn't any of those. It was a stolen white Volkswagen Jetta with over 113,000 miles on it, a busted transmission, and peeling leather on the wheel. The most powerful drug lord alive, world's most protected fleet of armored killer cars, and his actual getaway ride had worse mileage than your uncle's work truck. F tier. From the worst exit in the game to one of the flashiest lifestyles, John Gotti, the Dapper Don, ran the Gambino family and dressed like it. Hand-painted Brioni ties, a chauffeured Mercedes 300 SEL for his nightly rounds, and in his younger days, a flashy Jaguar XKE convertible, just to remind everyone who was boss. When he died, his funeral procession needed 19 limousines just to carry the flowers. 19! Most streamers don't have 19 cars, period. A tier. Then there's Meyer Lansky, the guy the FBI called the mob's accountant, who ran gambling empires from Havana to Las Vegas and was estimated to control somewhere between $300 and $400 million. When investigators finally caught up with his finances, he claimed his entire net worth was $57,000. And the wild part is, they could never actually disprove it. His money lived in Swiss accounts and shell companies. His house was modest. His suits were the kind an insurance salesman would wear. And according to FBI surveillance, the man who arguably ran organized crime in America simply drove a rented Chevrolet. No armor, no chrome, no monogram. The safest car in this entire list belonged to the one gangster who understood that the fastest way to attract federal attention is to drive something worth attracting attention. D tier, only because a rental technically isn't a real pick, but respect for the technique. Which brings us to a cautionary tale. Bugsy Siegel, the man who basically invented Las Vegas, reportedly kept a flashy 1947 Cadillac Series 62 convertible to match his Hollywood lifestyle. Didn't matter. He was killed sitting on a couch, reading the newspaper, shot through a window by a sniper who never even needed him to get in the car. Turns out, the fanciest garage in the world can't save you from the guy standing outside it. E tier, for the reminder that none of this was ever actually cool. But if you want to see how far a good car can actually take you, you have to end with the guy who started this whole genre. Al Capone had 10 rival gangsters try to shoot him off the street in 1926, so his solution wasn't a bodyguard. It was a Cadillac. He commissioned a 1928 Cadillac 341A town sedan and had it fitted with 3,000 pounds of steel armor, inch-thick bulletproof glass, and a rear window that dropped down so his guys could return fire. It's considered the world's first civilian armored car. He got 2 years to enjoy it before going to prison for tax evasion, and the government seized it. Then, the day after Pearl Harbor, the Secret Service needed a bulletproof car to get FDR to Congress, and didn't have one. Someone remembered Capone's Cadillac was sitting in a Treasury Department parking lot. When Roosevelt found out whose car he was riding in, he reportedly said, "I hope Mr. Capone won't mind." A mob boss's getaway car chauffeured a sitting president to declare war. God tier.